Hello, welcome to Flow Yoga. We're going to start seated if you can, and we're going to do a mudra with breath awareness in some specific areas. If you don't want to do the mudra, you can just, place your hands on the various areas as we get to them and forget about the mudra. This is a mudra called garuda, which means eagle. And you can play around with whether or not you have your right hand on the outside or the left hand on the outside. And what you do to do the mudra is you bend your elbows just to get into it. The palms are facing towards you. And then you cross at the wrist and you hook your thumbs. I'll come a little closer to the camera to show you this for a second. So you do this and then you curl the thumbs and see how I hooked my thumbs. So this is basically Garuda Mudra. You can try it with the right hand on the bottom and the left hand on the bottom and just see which one feels. They're both valid. So they might feel very different though, energetically. And then we're going to relax this in a few different areas, and we'll just take about 5 breaths in each area. So first one is you just get that position, whether you have your right hand on the bottom or the top. You keep your fingers a little, so these are like the feathers of the eagle. So you keep the fingers a little bit extended rather than having the fingers relaxed. And you let it drop down low towards your, as low as it'll go, towards the pelvis. And close your eyes. And just with this hand position, shoulders relaxed, spine tall. We'll take about 5 breaths down in this area, focusing the breath and the awareness of the breath kind of down towards the pelvic floor, tailbone area. Noticing if there's any sensation or subtle movement or energetic action going on down in that tailbone, perineum area. And now you're just going to take the hands, you're going to bend the elbows and just move them up a little bit so it's still below or maybe right at the navel. Shoulders still relaxed, but the elbows slightly more bent. And about 5 breaths. Awareness of the breath moves up a little bit here towards this level of the belly. If you're familiar with the chakra system, the first hand position was down towards first chakra level, and now we're at second chakra level. One more breath here at this level. Making sure your spine stays neutral, the shoulders stay relaxed, and the face stays soft. Now you're going to take the hands, you move them up to solar plexus height. And as the hands get higher, they'll probably start to face a little bit more towards the belly, and just allow that to happen with your wrists. And we'll take 5 breaths here at the solar plexus height. And now move the hands up to about heart height, so towards the base of the sternum. Shoulders relaxed, palms face more towards the chest. 5 breaths here. Again, being aware of any physical movement or energy movement or sensation in kind of this chest area where the hands are. Two more breaths here at the heart level. And then moving the hands up in front of the throat. You can rest kind of the little finger side of the hand that's closest to you on the top of the chest, below the collarbones if you want. And take 5 breaths with awareness here at the throat, feeling the sensation of breath in the throat. Noticing any subtle movements of the collarbones with the breath. And then 2 more areas. Bring the palms of the hands about as high as your forehead. So we're up at the 3rd eye, 6th chakra, 4 more breaths here. And then finally, hovering the hands over the crown chakra. 2 ways I'll suggest to do this. You can just have the palms of the hands facing down over the crown chakra, or flip your hands and have the hands facing more up. It's different on the wrists and the forearms and the shoulders, depending on which one you do. You could try them both. And about 5 breaths here. If your arms are getting tired, just relax the mudra and set the hands back down on your legs. Two more breaths. And let the arms relax. Circle the wrists a few times. Reverse the wrist circle. And then roll the scapula. You can roll them the same or have one up and one down, and they're going the same direction, but at different times. Okay, now we're going to transition to lying on your right side. I'm going to be on my right side, so I'm not mirroring you guys on this one. And you might need some support for underneath the right side of the head. And as you lie on your side, make sure you get that bottom arm, that's your right arm, in a good place. The arm could be more straight, or you could have the right arm bent. The back of the right hand can rest on your pillow or your blanket, or be on the floor, depending on what feels comfortable. And try to get your spine lined up, hips and shoulders and ears and head. Knees bent about 90 degrees, thighs to belly, and about 90 degrees, calves to thighs. And the top hand, that's your left hand, could just be gently resting somewhere on the floor or on the right arm or on top of the body.
Now we're going to do a sideline bicycle movement. So you lift the top knee and the foot a little bit, trying to get the outside of the calf and the outside of that top thigh parallel to the ceiling. So don't lift it too high, but lift it enough. And then you start a bicycle movement, knee towards the belly. Start to press the leg straight. And then take it down. And keep that going. And as you're doing this movement, notice if the leg starts to drift lower than the top hip. And if that happens, try to keep those outer leg muscles working. Or sometimes people have the leg too high. You're trying to keep it parallel to the floor and the ceiling, not let it lower or lift too much. And then pause with the straight leg in line with the torso, reaching towards the short end of the mat. And then you're going to reverse your bicycle. So the straight leg starts to come forward and then it bends. And it's just like you were pedaling backwards on your bike. Do this nice and slow. Notice if you're feeling anything in your leg muscles here. 2 more with this backward cycling. Again, paying attention to any drifting up or down that's happening of the leg that's moving. And then bend the knee, relax the top leg on the bottom leg for a couple of breaths. And now take your top hand, that's your left hand, you just kind of push it against that top rim of the pelvis. You're just kind of pushing the top rim of the pelvis a little bit away from your head. And then you straighten the left leg in front of you. Oh boy, it's lifted about as high as the hip. You go a little bit wide, taller if you want. And you have the edges of the feet parallel to the floor and the ceiling respectively. And then you slowly lower down, touch the big toe and inner heel to the floor, and then lift the leg. This is really important to do this slow. Keep the knee as straight as you can. Lower it down. You're using that hand pressing against the pelvis to make sure that hip's not hiking up into your waist. 1 more here. Oh, hello. And then pause with it lifted. Rotate the leg so the toes face more up, heel faces more down. That's fun. And then lower down slowly, tap the heel. Oof, and lift it back up. I don't know about you guys because I can't really see you or hear you, but I definitely feel something here. 1 more of these. Slowly. Okay, last one, lift it, pause with it lifted, do the opposite. You lead with your toes, heel faces the ceiling, and then you go down enough to tap the big toe to the floor, and then lift it. Keep kicking that leg as straight as you can. Tap the toe down, lift it. 1 more time, tap the toe down, and relax. Whew. Okay, take a couple breaths. Should be some sensation, energy movement, muscular engagement that happened in that top leg. Now go ahead and rotate yourself to lie on your left side. And we'll repeat it all and then we'll come up to standing. Make sure your neck's comfortable on this side. Sometimes people need more or less height on the 2 sides. The neck can be a little bit different. Check your legs, stacking knees, ankles, hips, 90 degrees in the thighs here. Now, first movement is that bicycle movement. Lift the top knee and foot, trying to get it parallel to the ceiling, and then bend it towards the belly and do your what I'll call pedaling forward if you were riding a bike. Go slow, watching for that creeping of the leg more towards the floor or higher than the hip. Trying to keep this steady track about hip height. 2 more this direction. And we're not like, in some sort of race on our imaginary bicycles. We're pedaling slowly. Next time the leg is straight and in line with the rest of the torso, reaching towards the short end of the mat, pause. And then reverse, so you're back pedaling. Several here, pedaling backwards. Again, sometimes going the opposite way, there'll be more wobbling up and down. 2 more. And then bend the knee, relax the top leg, take a few breaths. And then I tend to like to take my top hand and just kind of root my pelvis away from that armpit on that top side so I don't get too saggy on the bottom side and hike up that hip. So if you find that helpful, you can try pushing that hand against your outer hip. And straighten the leg in front of you. Get that neutral foot, inner edge and outer edge parallel to the floor and ceiling. Slowly lower down, big toe and inner heel touch at the same time, and then lift it about as high as the hip or a little tiny bit higher, and then lower it down again. You can play around with how much you have the thigh towards the belly, or if it's too intense, take the leg a little bit further away. Now lift it, pause, turn the toes up and the heel down so you're rotating outward at the hip. Lead with the heel, go down. This is my favorite of the 3. Lift. Keep externally rotating the leg. Tap the heel. Lift. Keep the leg as straight as you can. Rest if you need to. Tap the heel. Lift, stay lifted. Rotate the leg the other way. Toes down, heel faces the ceiling. 3 more times. Lower down, tap the toes. Lift, lead with the heel. Lower down, lift, lead with the heel. Last one, lower down and bend the knee and relax. Take 3 or 4 breaths here. Okay, roll towards the floor, press with your bottom hand. Go ahead and come up to all 4s. Move blanket out of the way or reposition it underneath your knees if you need to. And then we'll take just a minute to move on your own here on all 4s. You could do cat cows, you could do circles. Basically any sort of movement here that feels good. You could push back to child's pose and come back to all 4s. So free movement for about a minute. Experiment and see if you can figure out what feels good to you. So many unique ways to move. Few more breaths. And next, make your way up to mountain pose. Step towards the front short edge of your mat. Pause for a moment and really establish mountain pose, pressing down through the feet. Slight softening of the knees, but strong through the thighs. Shoulders over hips, ears over shoulders, arms relaxed. 2 breaths here, mountain pose. Notice what's happening with your toes and your feet.
And we'll do one sun salute A here. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Half lift, long spine, breathe in. Bend the knees enough to touch your hands to the floor. Step back to plank on the inhale. You can stay in plank. You can go through chaturanga or straight to downward facing dog. You do chaturanga. Explore cobra or up dog. And then down dog or puppy pose is where we'll meet. If you're in down dog, feel free to pedal the feet a few times here to loosen up the calves. Two more breaths in down dog. Feet to the hands. Half lift. Exhale, fold down. Circle the arms up, breathe in. And arms down by the sides. Make sure you're starting with your feet at least sit bone distance apart from one another. Bend the knees slightly and take your left foot and step it back. And press down through the heel, come into warrior one. And let's just do arms out to a T in warrior one here. Pressing up through the crown of the head, gauging through the core of the body. Back knee as straight as you can get it. That's it. 2 more breaths. Relax the arms, left foot steps forward, mountain pose, really get your stance. Bend both knees slightly, right foot steps back. Ground through the heel, bend the left knee, warrior one with arms out in a T. So think warrior one with warrior two arms. Really reach the fingertips away from the shoulders. Two more breaths. How you doing with your back leg? Grounding through the heel, little toe, and straightening the knee. Relax the arms, step forward with the back foot, pause, mountain pose, and we'll go through sun salute A, arms up over the head. Fold forward. Half lift. Step back, plank. And find your unique path to downward facing dog, whatever that looks like for you today. And 4 or 5 breaths here in down dog, depending on the pace of your breath. Notice the position of your spine, which includes your low back and your neck. Adjust the bend in the knees or the placement of the hands or the position of the head, depending on what you discover when you check in with those areas. One more breath here. Feet to the hands. Half lift. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms up over the head, inhale. Arms down by the sides. Okay, let's do palms together, bending the knees. And you can stay upright and just turn your torso to the left or lean forward and maybe hook the elbow, or you can straighten the arms and hook the forearm. Whatever feels best, twisting to the left. Upright, straight arms, or bent elbows, you decide. You don't have to look up at the ceiling. You can if you like the way that feels on your neck. And if you don't, then reposition the head till it's comfortable. 2 more breaths. Palms together, straighten the knees, mountain pose, palms together for 2 breaths. Bend the knees and start to turn to the right, whether you're upright, bent elbows, straight elbows, you decide. One more breath here. And straighten the knees, relax the arms by the sides, pause for 2 breaths in mountain pose. Okay, bend both knees slightly, step back to a warrior 1 again with the left foot. Don't do the biggest, longest step back that you've ever done in your life. So maybe a slightly shorter version of warrior 1. Right knee bends, arms out to a T, grounding through the left heel. And then keep this general shape, but you're just going to lean the body a little bit more forward over the front thigh, keeping the back heel as grounded as you can. This works a little more strength here in the body. You're not trying to go too far. You're just trying to get your torso kind of in the same angle as your back leg. Step forward, release, shake it out. Click in the mountain pose for a second, feet about sit bone distance apart. Bend both knees slightly, right foot steps back. Ground through the heel, bend the left knee, arms out to a T. For now, you're pretty vertical here with the spine, reaching out to the sides with the arms. And then just lean forward over that left leg a little bit. You might feel that change, the stretch in the back calf. Make sure your neck stayed neutral, that you didn't lift the chin and look up towards the ceiling. Keep the back of the neck long. And step forward, mountain pose, arms by the sides. We'll go through another sun salute, arms up over the head. Fold down. Lengthen. Step back with both feet. Decide how you're getting to downward facing dog and flow through. Few breaths here. One more breath. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Feet to the hands. Lengthen the spine, contract the back. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Arms down by the sides. Okay, bend your elbows and take your forearms behind you like this. I'm turning a little bit sideways so you can see me from the back. You don't have to grab your elbows. You can grab more forearms, or you can even be grabbing closer towards your wrists. Bend both knees slightly. Take your left foot, step it back, not too far. This time, straighten the right leg. So you might need to do a narrower stance. Press up through the crown of the head, draw the shoulders down, and then start to lean forward, keeping the legs as straight as you can. Back of the neck stays long, so the more forward you fold, the more your gaze looks back towards the back foot. If you look at the front foot, you're going to start to do something wonky with your neck. 2 more breaths. You're lengthening through the crown of the head, lifting the sternum a little bit away from the belly. One more breath here, intense side stretch. Ground through the feet, inhale, come up. Exhale, step forward with the left foot. Still got those forearms behind the back. Pause for a moment in mountain pose. Bend both knees slightly, right foot steps back. Heel goes down, straighten left leg, adjust your stance as needed. Press down and lengthen up, and then start to lean. Making sure your neck stays neutral. If you lift your chin and you're looking forward, that's not neutral. And notice where you're having sensation and make sure it's appropriate amount. About 3 or 4 more breaths here. Those look good. Inhale up. Step forward, relax the arms. Mountain pose, roll the shoulders a few times like we did when we were sitting. And then we'll do another sun salute, arms up over the head. Fold forward. Modify as needed. Skip things if you need to. Half lift. Step back, plank, or straight to down dog, or puppy pose, or flow through. Pausing in puppy pose or downward dog. About 4 more breaths here. Check your feet, your hands, and your spine. Walking forward with the feet. Half lift, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Sweep the arms up, breathe in. Arms down by the sides. Okay, you're gonna need a block, so find a block. And you're gonna place the block, you're gonna come back to mountain pose at the top edge of your mat, take the block. I recommend the tall setting, as you can always take it shorter if you need to, and then place the block between your feet. And then stand back up, vertical spine. Bend the knees slightly, left foot steps back. Right knee's bent, so it's a warrior one, but again, not probably as long of a warrior one as you usually do. Arms out to a T. So block is on the inside of that right foot. Reaching out to the sides and pressing up towards the ceiling with the head. Feel some engagement in the core to support the back. Now lean the torso slightly forward. We did this already. Back heel staying as grounded as possible. If it starts to pop up, try stepping the feet closer together. Now keep the bend in the front knee. Start to turn your T position and take the left hand to the block. Move the block if it needs to be further forward of the foot or closer or a different height. Pause for several breaths here. Front knee still bent for now. And now, if you can, slowly start to straighten that front leg. So now you're in twisted triangle and draw that would be your right side of the buttock, right hip a little bit backwards, left side slightly forward. Staying grounded through the left heel and the right big toe. 3 more breaths. Parivrtta Trikonasana. You might be feeling this in a similar area to when we were on the side, lifting and lowering that leg before. Okay, and now we're gonna come out of this very purposefully. So you keep your twist, but rebend that right knee a little bit. Now you untwist, but you're slightly lean forward like we were. And then keep your T, but come more upright. Relax the arms, step forward, shake it out. And then make sure that block is still between your feet. Take a couple breaths, notice any difference between the two sides now that we did all that on one side. Bend the knees slightly, right foot steps back. A bit narrower warrior one, ground through the right heel, reach out arms to a T, press it through the top of the head. You keep everything where it is and lean the whole body forward slightly over that left thigh. Keep lengthening through the top of the head, reaching out through the arms. Now keeping the bend in the left knee, start to rotate your T, right hand to the block, just the placement of the block if you need to. Left arm reaching up, if that's not comfortable, bend the left arm, rest it down on the body somewhere. 2 more breaths with the left knee bent. And then carefully start to straighten the left leg as much as you can. Left side of pelvis draws back, right side draws slightly forward. Revolve triangle, 3 more breaths. And then keep the twist, but bend the left knee slightly, pause. Keep the bend in the knee, untwist, you're leaning forward slightly, pause. Keep the bend in the knee, keep the arms in a T, get more upright, pause. And then relax, step forward, move the block out of the way, shake it out. And we'll go through another sun salute, last one, inhale, arms up. Fold forward. Half lift. Step back, plank. Find your way to downward dog. You get to decide the path you take. And a few breaths here in downward facing dog. Two more breaths. Then set your knees down and come to a seated position. Elevate buttocks on some support if that's beneficial. Bent knees, feet pressed down. So you don't have to have your knees in really close necessarily. Hands grabbing on to the shin somewhere and push down through your feet and your sit bones and pull your hands back against the shins. Get slightly taller, draw your shoulders down, tuck your chin slightly, take a couple breaths here, engage through the belly. And then keep the right hand pulling and holding on to the right shin. Take your left arm out to a T. Lift it a little bit higher than a T. And then start to pull that left arm back. Let it pull you into a twist. Really reach the arm away from the shoulder on a bit of an upward diagonal. That's uncomfortable for the shoulder. You could try higher or lower with the angle of the arm. You can turn your head and look back towards the hand, or turn your head forward, or don't turn your head in either direction. Keep pressing into the floor and lengthening the spine. 2 more breaths. If it feels difficult to sit upright here, try sitting up on something thicker, like maybe even a block. And then bring that left hand back down to the left shin. Pull equally through both hands. Press through the buttocks and the feet. Right arm out. Lift it a little bit higher than the shoulder if that feels okay. And then the right arm starts to pull back, and that pulls the whole body into a twist. And breathe here. Keep that downward pressure into the floor and lengthening upwards through the spine. Untwist. Okay, from here, take your hands underneath your legs, holding on to the backs of the thighs or the backs of the knees with the hands. And then you pull the balls of the feet away from the floor. Keep your heels down. You're still lengthening. And then you just start to walk your feet away from you. Torso goes forward. And you might not be able to get the knees all the way straight. Shoulders pull away from the ears. Crown of the head lengthens. So it was a different way of getting into west stretch, Paschimottanasana. A few more breaths here. Sitting up. Lean back into the hands, roll the legs nice and easy. And bend both knees, take the feet over to the right, come into a side sitting situation. Some people need more height or less height underneath the buttocks here. And there's definitely, room for making your side sitting uniquely yours. Lengthen upwards. And then we do a twist to the left. Right hand can stay on the right leg or cross the belly and go to the left thigh. Left hand touches something behind you, whether that's the floor or block. Two more breaths. This is a pose called Bharadvajasana. Gently untwist. Use your hands for some support. Get your feet in front. And then lift them and side sit with your feet to the left. Take a moment to settle your legs and your pelvis. And then press and lengthen. And then left hand can stay on the left leg or sweep across to the right. You're twisting to the right. And untwist, straighten your legs, shake them out. Okay, before you come into it, let me show you a couple of things that we're gonna do so you know what your options are. You may end up needing a block. So we're going to come into, let me just show it to you first. It's going to be the side sitting position again. You're going to face the long edge of the mat in your side sitting, and then you take the block out. I'm not going to mirror you on this one because it will unravel very quickly in my brain. So you're going to have your legs to the left. You're going to twist and start to lean to the right. You can stay upright. You can come more down to the forearms. You could put a blanket or a block underneath your forearms to raise the floor up to you. So those are all some options. You can stay here, or the top leg straightens and rests on the block with the inner edge of the foot. And then wait for the fun part. You could stay here, or you take the bottom leg, and you straighten it out that way. And so it's similar to a twisted triangle, but we flipped it. And then one thing you want to do is, I don't know if you can see me doing this, but I'm pulling my chest a little bit towards my hands. That changes where the weight is on that bottom leg and might change the sensation there. So that's kind of the progression, and you can stop at any point in the process. So I'll come out and I'll rewind it. You'll come back up to side sitting. Feet are to the left. Remember, I'm not mirroring you. And you're side sitting with your torso facing more towards the long edge of your mat. And then your block, medium height, towards that edge of your mat down there, the same direction your feet are. Now the progression is to start turning to the right and then lean into your hands. You can stay upright here and just hold this position. You could start to explore getting your elbows down to the floor. If you can't get the elbows to the floor, you could use another block and put your elbows on a second block. You can stay here. Next option is to take the top leg, that's your left leg, straighten it and rest it on the edge of that block. You can stay here, keeping this bottom knee bent. This is a nice twist. And then the final option, if you want to do it, is to take that bottom leg, that's your right leg, and start to straighten it out in front of you, similar to what we did when we were sideline. Oh, yikes. And then that's very subtle, but not so subtle in terms of how it feels, pulling the elbows back towards the hip to roll a little bit more towards that outer right hip area, and take a few more breaths. You can always go back to a previous, more simpler expression of the pose. How much energy you're putting into dorsiflexing and pulling back on the little toe side of that right leg could really change what you're experiencing. 2 more breaths. Again, if you're doing this full expression here, it's basically twisted triangle pose face down on the floor. And now we're going to come out of it carefully. If you straighten the right leg, start to bend it. If you straighten the left leg up on the block, bring it down and bend it. And then start to press up. Untwist. Straighten the legs out in front. Roll them. Oh, that was fun. Okay, now we're going to do the whole thing on the other side. So you're going to move your block down to the opposite end. Bend the knees, get your side sitting, feet to the right. Block down that way. Now start to rotate to the left and maybe place your hands on the floor. You can stop and remain here for the rest of the duration, or start to bend your elbows or walk your hands more forward. Take the forearms to block or floor. Pause here. It's possible you might not be able to do the same expression on this side that you did on the first side. It's okay. They don't have to be the same because they're not the same. Now, if you can stay here, or take your right leg, straighten it, and rest the foot on the block.
Option to stay here or start to straighten the bottom leg. That's your left leg. And then if you got the left leg straight, then that's that little bit of pulling the elbows, like you're trying to take your elbows to your left thigh, and that's going to roll you in a slightly different place on that outer left leg. Little toe side of the left foot pulls back. And a few more breaths. Very nice. I'll make up a name for this one. Adho Mukha Parivrtta Trikonasana. So that means downward facing revolved triangle. One more breath. And then depending on where you are, start to come out the way you came in. So first thing would be to bend the left leg if you straightened it. Next would be to bend the right leg if you straightened it and put it on the block. Then start to bring your torso back upright. Undo the twist. Straighten the legs, roll it out. Okay, next I'm going to invite you to come back onto all fours, and we're going to take a minute on all fours again, just to move in any way that would feel good after that last pose. Maybe it's cat-cow. Maybe you want to press back and hang out in child's pose. Maybe you want to do circles or something else. Maybe you want to do a downward-facing dog. That would be fine too. So a few breaths, either holding some position or moving in a way that feels good after that last pose. Two more breaths, whatever you're doing here. Okay, make your way onto your back. Bent knees. Soles of the feet grounded. Arms come in kind of close to the sides of the body. Tuck your shoulder blades down towards the pelvis and in towards the spine a little bit, not too much. You can overdo some of those cues, so find the sweet spot. And next, you're just going to do a few rolling bridges on your own. So you start to engage the belly, flatten the back, press down and roll up from the bottom to the top. Pause. And then roll down, really controlling. Go slowly, maybe go half as fast as you normally would. Slower is just different in terms of physicality, energy flow. The way the joints move is affected by the pace. So two more kind of slow motion rolling bridges. If this isn't feeling good and you'd rather be doing knees to the belly or something else, that's fine too. One more. Notice how it feels to slow this down. And next time you're down, You could come into happy baby and rock around, or knees to the belly and do some circles. And a couple more breaths, circles or happy baby or any combination of those. And now get ready for shavasana. You like to use support anywhere for shavasana, please set yourself up as needed. And make sure you check the position that you've landed in, fine tuning the placement of the arms, legs, pelvis, head. And then let yourself relax and settle. Is there any tension in your forehead? Is there tension in the jaw or the top and bottom rows of teeth touching, or can you allow some space? What about the top lip and the bottom lip? Are the lips completely sealed from corner to corner? Or can you soften around the mouth and let the lips part slightly in the middle? Now, can you relax the breathing? Just leaving the breath alone and letting it be effortless and quiet and natural. And notice the position of your body and how your body's feeling. If there's discomfort while you're in shavasana or when you finish with your practice, that's a sign that you need to pay more attention during your practice as you're triggering something. So you should, all went well, be feeling good at this point. Bend the knees when you're ready, start some small movements and pause on your side. And sitting up.
And then as a final thing before we finish, just come back to that mudra that we did at the beginning, hooking those thumbs, and then place it wherever you feel inspired to place it. And we'll just take a few, maybe 5 breaths here, returning to the mudra, whether it's down by the belly and the pelvis or solar plexus or the heart or up by the throat or the third eye or the top of the head, you decide. Okay, thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed your practice. Namaste.